Welcome back to the Baseball Podcast, everybody. This is your host, Tom Quirk. I'm here with my co-host, Ethan Pachurski, and unfortunately, we have bad news. I don't know how to say this, but we received our second fan mail of all time, and it appears that our use of sound effects, some call it our liberal use of sound effects, may have rubbed some people the wrong way, which means that we're going to have to make some changes going forward. We're not going to be able to use sound effects, drops, many call them, with the same frequency that we have been. We are going to be using them more frequently. So instead of, for example, maybe saying this,
how much more betrayal can I take?
We might do this.
How much more?
We're not going to do it like that, but we are going to be using more of them. So just to address, just so people don't feel like when they send fan mail that it falls on deaf ears. We don't want them to feel like they're
heard.
Yeah, we don't want them to feel like they're shouting into the void. So, Ethan, we do have a guest coming on, somebody who is famous for talking about baseball and also famous for talking about international. And
it seems that way, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's according to his name anyway. He's a gentleman named Baseball International. Will be coming on.
Well, his name's Eric. His channel's called Baseball International.
No. His legal name is Baseball International.
Eric must be his middle name. Baseball International, Eric, and then Jones or whatever.
Yeah, Esquire.
Yeah.
So, we're going to be talking about, their rosters just dropped today, so we're going to talk about a couple of those. He's a little bit more of an expert on, shall we say, Eastern baseball than we are. So, I'm hoping that we will be able to talk to him about that, since, Japan they're not the favorite, but they're one of the top three teams in the tournament. They might be the second best team at this point. So, it's good to get some insight on that. Another one of the things that we're going to be talking about is MLB trying to grow the game. And the way that I've decided to express MLB's approach to growing the game. Forgive me, MLB. Okay. I love baseball, but I've decided to express it thusly. So rather than doing this,
I want to play a game.
MLB, rather than doing that, they're doing a lot of this. So, they would rather make money and paywall all their games behind, Apple TV and evidently Peacock this year and all that type of stuff. And we're going to talk a little bit about Brazil, where they are also doing this instead of growing the game. So, we're hoping to get some good stuff out of our friend Baseball International. He's you guys should probably refer to him as Mr. International.
Yeah, just put a little respect on his name.
Yeah. I mean, treat him with the formality that he deserves. Don't treat us with the formality. I mean, treat us with the formality that we deserve by not treating us with any of it. And Ethan,
the respect that a man with a flourishing baseball YouTube channel deserves.
Right, and respect us with the respect that a not flourishing baseball podcast deserves. Podcasting being an inferior medium. Now, Ethan, do you have anything to add before we traverse these waters alongside Baseball International?
Well, I would just say that I don't think it's the podcast is an inferior medium. I think it's the hosts are inferior. Eric is talented and diligent, and he puts in hard work, and we don't do any of those things.
Yeah,
we don't have any of those traits.
Yeah, that's true.
I will say, I'm going to get a little esoteric here. Whoa. I was talking with Sean Spradling, friend of the show.
Okay.
And I was
best
talking to him about
the show.
Yeah, best friend of the show. and I was talking to him, and I was like, hey, if you have time, we should do an episode next week because, the rosters are going to be out. And I was like, I know it's really busy though. And he's been growing like crazy. He's got over 6,000 followers now, and good for Sean, man.
He's got his own podcast.
He's got his own podcast, WBC Central. Go check it out. He just did an awesome live stream for the World Baseball Classic roster reveals. Sean, I couldn't be more proud of you. I know that means the world to him. But
I could be more proud of Sean, but only because I think the sky's the limit. All right.
Yeah, I could be more proud of you. I'm choosing not to be. But
Yeah,
so,
and you know what?
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
and he's right. But anyway, I texted Sean and was like, "Hey, if you have time next week, I know it'll be crazy, but we should do an episode about the rosters." And he was like, "Oh man, I'd love to." And he was like, "I'm like double booking myself with podcasts though." And I was like,
Ooh.
"Oh well," and I was like, "I don't want you to like." I was like, "I don't want you to," I was like, "Don't worry about it." And basically, what I said was, I was like, "Look, man, you got to get yourself out there. You you should be going on a bunch of shows that you haven't been on before and like expanding your audience. You shouldn't be coming on our show for the third time when we're two idiots with 28 YouTube subscribers." And he texted me back, and Sean is such a nice guy. He texts me back and he goes, "But I want to help grow you guys too."
So what he
Which
was
is dope.
saying, what he was saying
I
was,
was trying to help you out, get you something started.
Yes, Steve Harvey, yes. But so I was like, I basically texted back and I was like, "Sean, I appreciate you so much." And he's such a good guy. I love him. But basically what I said was, I was like, "Sean, you're so good at getting yourself out there and marketing yourself and constantly, like all day long, tweeting out stuff and putting up clips and TikTok videos and everything. And that's what you got to do if you want to grow." I don't want to do any of that, man. I'm bad
Right.
at it. And every once in a while I have this like awakening where I'm like, man, like nothing's separating me from being Sean. Like I could get out there, I could be tweeting, like you know what it is, and I could grow this podcast and I could have a lot of fun. I could try and make money off of it and get like subscribers and everything. And then I think about it and I'm like, I don't want to do that though.
yeah.
You know what I
No,
mean? Like,
you know
God,
how I would summarize this? That there is one thing separating us from Sean, and you know what that is?
good
Talent.
looking. Yep. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
exactly what it
talent.
is. But dude, it really is like I told Sean this. I was like, I really admire about you that you're like really diligent and hardworking about this because like he's just some guy, just like me and you. He doesn't work in baseball, you know what I mean? He doesn't like as far as I know, he
Hey,
doesn't have any
whoa.
credentials that we don't have.
I work in baseball.
That's a good point. That's
The
a good
hell
point.
are you talking about?
That's a very good point. But my point though is like Sean literally just went out there and did a bunch of hard work and now he's seeing it pay off and he's got a podcast and he had on Josh Wolf on his live stream who's going to play for Israel. Like it's awesome, man. I'm so glad for Sean. I'm not good at that. I don't have ambition. You know what I mean? Like
Well,
I have this little podcast and I have fun and we sit down sometimes to record an episode and that's that. Good for Sean though, really. In all seriousness, he deserves all the success that he's having right now. And I'm glad to call him a friend and a friend of the show.
And you know what? When it's right for him to come on our podcast, I would love to have him on again. But you know what? He's got his own profile to grow.
Yeah.
And you know what they say? And Sean, this goes out to you, okay? This goes out to you, Sean. If you love something, let it go.
Is that how I feel about Sean? I love you too much to drag you down.
Yeah, listen, Sean, I love you. And this is not platonic. That's why I'm letting you go.
Well, we've talked a lot about Sean, and he doesn't even know that. We've talked a lot about Sean. Take it easy. We've talked a lot about
dude. You can't.
Take it easy.
You can't just,
we've talked a lot
please.
about Sean. Tom, let's talk about our guest that we have coming on today, Mr. Eric. I didn't think to ask about his last name, but Eric,
Baseball International
of Baseball International. He's got an awesome YouTube channel where he does recaps of leagues around the world, a lot of the Caribbean leagues and the South American leagues, and then obviously NPB, KBO, Australia, all that. So if you're looking for, actual coverage of the leagues all overseas, you got to check him out. He's awesome. He also does videos of just sort of, baseball in India, baseball in Pakistan, baseball in Australia, of just giving you a rundown of what the baseball scene is like there. And he also does stuff about how MLB can grow, or not MLB, sorry, baseball as a sport can grow. So he's just an awesome source of basically the growth of the game and seeing how it can grow in the future. So if you're into that at all, go check him out. His baseball channel or his YouTube channel is called Baseball International. And you can find him on Twitter at BaseballIntern1. I didn't think to ask what he interned for, but I'm sure it was fascinating.
Probably, just throwing this out here, I'm going to guess that he interned for baseball.
Let's not go putting words in his mouth. Take it easy.
You're right. Yeah. You know what?
Take it easy.
I was just going to say that I was listening to his weekly recap today, where he was discussing the Caribbean series. And I got to say, his channel is the only place where you're going to find like any sort of in-depth coverage about this outside of like maybe the occasional article on like MLB.com or like Twitter. Well, if you're trying to follow, I want to listen to a recap, he's pretty much it. So
he's your guy. He's your guy.
Yeah, he's the only guy giving these leagues the kind of attention that, the MLB kind of just gets by default. So if you want a quick recap of how the Caribbean series is going, which my team, okay, Venezuela has become my adopted team in the world for reasons that I don't have a good reason for it. They just have. They evidently are doing really good. Evidently, they smashed Cuba like 20-3 the other day. So they're killing it. And I only know that because I tuned in to Baseball International on YouTube. And
Good
you
man.
know what? That's a testimonial. You should also tune into Baseball International.
It's worth the price of admission.
Yeah, and you know what I would say to that if you decided that you were going to do that, I would say
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
And he's right.
So,
and he's right.
If you're the kind of person who says,
I hate Keith. Hate him.
It's still for you. So go ahead, tune into Baseball International, follow him on Twitter.
I haven't watched every single one of his videos, but from what I can tell, he is not a Keith Hernandez heavy channel, though, which is good. Which is good
so
for
if you are the kind of person who despises Keith Hernandez, who says this,
I despise him.
If you're that kind of person, the channel's safe. You're going to be okay.
Yeah, you're going to be.
If you're not that kind of person, well, if you're the kind of person who's only wants to look at things that have anything to do with Keith Hernandez, maybe not that channel. But you know what?
There's plenty of other places out there for you.
Yeah, I don't think there's a lot of them out there though. So I'm going to go ahead and recommend Baseball International to 99.9% of our audience. So trillions of people.
And he's right. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoy our discussion with Baseball International, and we'll see you on the other side. Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Baseball Podcast. We're here with Eric, the founder of the Baseball International YouTube channel. Eric, thanks for taking the time to come on. It's a lot of fun to have you today. And why don't you just tell us... Yeah, sorry, I'm talking over you already. Why don't you just tell us about what you do and what your YouTube channel is and all that?
All right. Well, the name of the channel says it all, Baseball International. Every Monday I do something I call World Baseball News, where I just talk about everything that's gone on in baseball in the past week. That includes, in the winter, 9 different leagues, all in the Caribbean and Australia. In the summer, Japan, Korea, Taiwan, and Mexico, and 4 European leagues. That's Netherlands, Italy, Czech Republic, and Germany. And any other things like WBC right now is big news. Any other international tournaments like Olympics or stuff like that. So that keeps me pretty busy. Then one other time during the week, usually on a Friday, I'll do something totally different. Right now, it's all WBC rosters for each individual team. Other times a year, I'll do a season preview or, whatever, stuff like that. But it's all international baseball. Occasionally Major League Baseball.
Yeah. Well, they cross over a lot. So, yeah. So how did this all get started? What made you want to do this?
Well, I'd been into international baseball since 2009, WBC. I went to Tokyo Dome, saw Japan and Korea. It was great. After that, I was researching about baseball all around the world. But at that time, it was hard to keep up to date on it. So I kind of got out of it. Plus, my child was born, so didn't have much time. Right. And really, it was 2018. I got really fed up with the MLB announcers. So I started using YouTube for baseball, like highlights and commentary and stuff. Up until that point, YouTube had just been music videos for me. And I also started using Twitter at that time because I'd never had a Twitter account until 2018. I know I'm pretty slow on that. But I noticed on Twitter there was somebody putting out news about Japanese baseball in English, Korean baseball in English, CPBL in English, but on YouTube there was nothing. If you searched for Japanese baseball on YouTube, usually you got some 22-year-old with his iPhone at Koshin or something, recording 20 seconds and saying, "Woohoo, I'm at a Japanese baseball game," it's fine, it's entertaining for some, especially those who've never been to Japan before. But I think there was a good audience out there for people who wanted some substance. So they wanted to hear about the leagues, about the players, a little about the history. So that's how I got started.
Okay. That's super cool. So obviously I'm assuming you're from North America. How did you end up in Japan?
First I was stationed here. That was a long time ago. And then right before I got out, I met, the girl that's my wife now. and decided to come back here. To make the story short, that's basically how it happened. I've been out here since the first week of 2007.
Okay.
Wow.
So it's been a little while, huh?
Yeah, almost all my adult life has been spent in Japan.
That's awesome. That's super cool. So, sidetrack, what'd you do in the military?
In the military, I worked on planes, F-18s, loading bombs up onto them, loading missiles up. So,
oh, that's super cool. Well, thanks for serving, man. So okay, so you stayed in Japan. Do you come back and visit the U.S. a lot? And do you ever go to MLB games or keep up with it and that kind of thing?
oh shoot. Since 2007, when I've been living here, I've been back to the U.S. twice.
Wow.
2009, I brought my wife back so my whole family could see her, and I took her to a Cubs game. Cubs lost to the Reds that day. Carlos Zambrano was pitching. Fukudome was there, so she got to get a picture of him and show all her family.
Okay.
So that was cool. The next time was 2015, and no, I didn't catch a game at that time.
That's a better time to catch a Cubs game, though.
Yeah. I wish I'd gone to a Cubs game at that time.
Yeah.
But then I was supposed to go out in 2020. I had plane tickets and everything, and summer of 2020, how that turned out.
Right.
Right. Yeah, it was a warm summer, But that was the only notable thing that happened in 2020.
Nothing else important happened. Yeah. Well, that's a bummer. So, are you a big NPB guy? Do you go to a lot of games or anything like that?
I used to go like 5 a year, but now lately it's been once every 2 years or so. Yeah, I'm by train about an hour from Tokyo Dome if I catch the rapid train, so it's pretty convenient.
Oh, that's awesome.
Now, do you have a team, like an adopted home team in NPB, or do you just kind of like root for the sport in general?
I have to be a Giants fan. That was when I first met my wife's parents. I went to their home, and in their living room, they had a big picture of Hara in there. They had a Jabbit doll. I don't know if you know, that's the Giants rabbit. It's their mascot, Jabbit.
No, yeah. You learn something new every day.
Hara is their manager, I should have mentioned. But anyway, it was like all orange in there, Giants colors. So if I had chosen a different team to root for, it would have been really weird. Might have broken up the marriage. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
So your wife's a big baseball fan too?
Yeah, she's a pretty big fan. And our daughter's become a big fan now too. She's 12, so she makes a habit of memorizing jersey numbers for all the players. She often steals my baseball guide, so it's really cool building a baseball family out here.
Yeah, so you're raising her right, is what it sounds like. Yeah. That's awesome.
That's like the sort of thing that I used to be able to do. Like when I was like 15, I had like every roster on every team memorized. Now I'm like, wait a minute, Benintendi's on the White Sox now? Like, when did this happen? Like, I watch baseball, but like, back then there's nothing taking up any hard drive space. So I'm like, oh, well, Corey Sullivan was on the bench for the Rockies that year. I know that. And so,
now you got to devote brain power to like doing your taxes and stuff. It's terrible.
Oh, yeah.
So, okay. So I do want to ask about your YouTube channel. We're all over the place, but I never have a plan for anything. But so with your YouTube channel, how exactly did you come to the decision to start doing it? Did you just say, I love this and I want people to know about it, or what happened?
I can't really remember actually. Yeah, it was just the end of 2018. I said, "Damn it, I'm starting a YouTube channel." And my first video went up on January 10th, 2019. That was the Guide to Nippon Professional Baseball. About a 20-minute video, and looking back on it, I sound kind of awkward, kind of fake, but from what I hear, everybody's first YouTube channel is kind of like that.
Yeah, don't we all? So I remember
every early YouTube video I've ever watched from any channel sounds like that. So I think you're right.
Yeah, don't feel bad. So the way I found you is I found that video that you did of the best player in the history of each country from MLB, obviously.
Okay.
And one of the things, and I'll just say this, I just think this is funny, is that I was watching this video for the first time. I remember it got to Panama, and you said Mariano Rivera, and I was like, that's a hot take. I feel like a lot of people go with Rod Carew. And the next one was the Panama Canal Zone. And I was like, good for you for sneaking them both in there. You know what I mean? I just thought that was hilarious.
Yeah, I actually might have just picked Carew for all of Panama, but Baseball Almanac had them separated, Panama Canal Zone and Panama. So that alerted me.
Yeah, taking a run with it. So how do you go about gathering all the information for these videos that you make? I'm assuming you can't watch every game from all the leagues that you're talking about.
Of course not. The best source of information for me is Twitter. Really, I just follow all the accounts from different leagues around the world, and I just take in what they get. I spend all my day screenshotting any good information they got, and then at the end of the week or start of the week, whichever video it is, just put it all together, type it up, and speak. So, but
That's
others, I Google search for some things, and of course, baseball reference for the stats and stuff like that. Sometimes I have to actually contact somebody to get some information because it's not anywhere online. But that's all.
No, yeah, that's cool.
Alright.
So are people usually willing to help you out, or do you ever have to kind of bother people?
Yeah, most of the time people are really anxious to help out, and they're really glad to give the information. There's been a few times where somebody's just never answered, but I don't know if they're I don't know what the problem is, but
that's the rescue run,
Yeah, that always happens. That always happens. So I do want to ask, because obviously the World Baseball Classic, we're recording this on Thursday, and the rosters were just announced like 2 hours ago. And have you been able to see any of them?
Yeah, I got up at 8 o'clock this morning, which is 6 p.m. Eastern your time. So
Okay, yeah.
With breakfast, I had baseball rosters.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why my house looks like crap. I haven't had a chance to clean it yet. But
I mean,
nobody
all
can
I
see
can,
it.
yeah, all I can see behind you is a door, so you're fine. So
that's the only good part of the house right here.
So are you pulling for the U.S.? Are you pulling for Japan? Like, what kind of teams are you most interested in?
Yeah, it's hard. I'm not really pulling for anybody. Of course, I want to see the U.S. do good. It's, the country I grew up in. I want to see Japan do well, too, because, I support Japanese baseball, and it's good for NPB if they finish high because it's mostly NPB players. But it's just a fun tournament. I don't get too involved in it. I don't get too passionate about rooting for one team over another. But I just enjoy it.
No, actually, this you're probably the most familiar guy that we've had on with NPB, so this might be a good opportunity to talk about the Japanese roster, just because, everybody knows who Ohtani is. I think a lot of people are familiar with Suzuki and Yoshida, and over here we know who Lars Nootbaar is, but a lot of the names on here, like, people don't know who they are in the United States,
me included.
The NPB is probably the second best professional league in the world. I would assume that NPB is probably at least on the same level as like AAA, if not maybe a little higher. So
between AAA and Major League level, so it's higher than AAA.
Yeah, it's like quadruple A.
Yeah.
So all these guys on here who I don't know who Yuki Matsui is, but presumably he's one of the better players in Japan. So
he's good.
It might be a good time to talk about some of these names on here. You could maybe teach some of our millions of fans more about maybe some of the underrated players on Japan's roster.
Okay. Well, the first thing is, this morning when they talked about, this evening for you, when they talked about Japan's roster, I was really disappointed because the lady asked the guy, who do we need to look out for that we've never heard of? And all he mentioned was Roki Sasaki. You've heard of Roki Sasaki, right?
He's the perfect game guy, right?
Yeah, perfect game, and almost 2 perfect games in a row, actually. So a week later, he threw 8 perfect innings and was taken out. It was an amazing story.
Wow. But imagine being that manager. You walk out to the mound and you're like, I hate to do it to you.
Well, the manager was Tadahito Iguchi. I don't know if you know. He was
former
Phillies legend.
Yeah. He was managing the Chibalote Marines up until the end of last year. The Marines disappointed at the end of the season, and he resigned. So he's no longer the manager. But he was from, I think, 2018 to 2022. He was manager.
Okay.
Okay.
Right.
So he's a big name, right? I'm assuming in Japan, and a lot of people in the U.S. have heard of him because of the perfect game thing.
Yeah. But the thing that was disappointing to me is they only mentioned Roki Sasaki. Sasaki right now, he's 21 years old, and he's they're just still being careful with him. Pitch count, innings, time between starts, because he's got a really strong arm. It could break any moment, if not taken care of right. But the pitcher you really got to look out for is Yoshinobu Yamamoto.
Okay.
He's ready to go. He could go to over Major League Baseball right now. They're not being careful with him. He averages about 7 1/3 innings per start.
Whoa.
Yeah.
He's getting the Tanaka treatment.
Well, he's just got a strong arm. He can handle it.
Yeah.
He's won the pitcher's triple crown 2 years in a row now.
Wow.
Pacific League MVP 2 years in a row. His numbers are very comparable to Yu Darvish's before he left.
Oh man, that's a good comp.
Yeah, I have
Yeah,
his
and-
numbers pulled up. His numbers are crazy. He's had a sub 2 ERA the past 2 seasons. He's
Oh my
23.
Yeah,
Oh my gosh.
yeah.
What do we got? His career hits per 9 is 6.2. Low walks 2.1 per 9. I mean, all right. Well, you know what? I'm sold.
Yeah, you sold.
I like
you
this
sold
guy.
me on this guy. So I've heard a lot of people. I don't know if you're familiar with Sean Spradling. He's sort of taken up the mantle of marketing the WBC, and I've heard him say on a couple of occasions that Japan has the best rotation in the World Baseball Classic. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, it's hard to say because you're well, Yu Darvish and Shohei Ohtani are great major league pitchers. From what I've seen of Yoshinobu Yamamoto and Roki Sasaki, that would complete their 4-man rotation.
Mm-hmm.
I think they are better pitchers than Darvish and Ohtani. So
Wow.
if you put that together, yeah, that's the best rotation. But they haven't actually been tested in Major League Baseball.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of hard to say they have a better rotation than Dominican Republic.
Yeah.
Well, Dominican Republic's taken a couple of casualties over the past week, so I feel like, I mean, I was talking to Ethan about this before we got on. I feel like the Dominican Republic's rotation has come down from the best. I might hand it to Japan at this point, especially now that we're talking about this guy Yamamoto, who evidently is like the unsung hero of the tournament, waiting to happen. So yeah, maybe Japan has the best rotation at this point. Because the guys taking up the back end of DR, like, Johnny Cueto used to be an elite pitcher. He's really not anymore. I don't even know who the other guy is. His name's like, it's something.
I think
Contreras.
he's like a big. I think he's like a big time prospect. Rowancy, yeah.
But it doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't seem like that guy's on the level of either of the guys taking up the 3 and 4 spot on Japan. So maybe they do have the best rotation now.
So am I correct in assuming these are the best pitchers in NPB?
Yes, those 4 are definitely the best. That's the best starting rotation. You notice Masahiro Tanaka is not there.
I was wondering about that because he's still
I thought
playing
he was
over there,
going
right?
to make it.
He's no longer a top 10 starting pitcher in Japan.
Really?
He's still good, but just not quite good enough.
Didn't make a cut?
He made the Olympic roster 2 years ago now, but he was
Yeah.
just barely good enough for that. And I think they just gave it to him because of his major league experience.
Mm-hmm.
He's been good since he's come back, but he hasn't been like dominating like some people thought he would. So
Okay, so I have a question for you. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I cut you off?
no, go ahead.
So I did want to ask you something because you talked about Tanaka, and that made me think. Like, as somebody who lives in Japan, your wife's Japanese. You obviously watch a lot of NPB. I want to know because I don't know anything about it. I was talking to Sean about how Lars Nootbaar is now playing for Japan, and he wasn't born there. And that seems like kind of a landmark moment in the Japanese, national team like culture, I guess. And how do people feel about that? Also, how do you feel about that?
Well, yeah, I talked to a couple, both older guys that disagree with it and say it's just not necessary.
Mm-hmm.
I see where they're coming from. It's really not necessary to get a guy like him over here. I mean, you could just fill it, make it a whole NPB roster, plus major league Japanese guys.
Right.
But it's just one guy, and you figure like Naomi Osaka plays tennis under a Japanese flag, and she was born and raised in America, doesn't speak Japanese except a few words and phrases, and everybody's cool with that. So there shouldn't be a problem with Lars Nootbaar being on the roster. And altogether, I haven't heard too many complaints about it. He's just another guy on the roster. So.
Okay, because see, the way that I always think about it is because I'm a big Team Israel fan, right? My mom's side of the family is Jewish and all. So the way I think about it is like there are plenty of guys that could play for Team Israel that aren't practicing Jews. You know what I mean? They might have a grandfather somewhere or their wife, something like that. But like, come on and play. It makes the team better. I want Team Israel to win. I don't really care if the players are super connected or not. It seems like maybe Japanese fans don't feel that way. They want to. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, yeah, you got to remember, baseball has been played here since the late 19th century. So, getting close to 150 years, they built up their own traditions and everything. I think 1 or 2 players like that, just with some ancestry to Japan won't be an issue. it would be if the team was overrun with players like that, then it would be an issue. But I don't think they need to worry about that because you got so many strong players growing up here.
Yeah, I think even I would have an issue with that, honestly, because like there are a lot of countries like Israel, for example, who can't field a completely domestic team. Like Japan would have no issue with that, and even if they left the major leaguers off, they would probably have the third best team. I can't think of anybody who would be better except maybe like Venezuela.
Yeah,
But
top
like,
five.
yeah,
For sure.
Top five. At
Yeah,
least.
I mean Japan's going to be fine. So if they were mad about guys who are not domestic being on their roster, it would be kind of like, well, yeah, I mean, they got plenty of Japanese players who deserve to be there, and maybe should get the first shot. But it sounds like they're not worried about Newt Bar, and again, it is just one guy, like you said. So
yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, we talked about your underrated pitcher. So we talked about Yamamoto. Is there a hitter, a position player on here that you think is a little bit of a sleeper also?
Sleeper. Well, yeah, I wanted to mention he's not a sleeper. I mean, he's the best hitter on the team, I think. Munetaka Murakami, who hit 56 home runs last year. It's going to be interesting to see how he does against major league pitchers. One stat that was brought up recently from Yaku Cosmopolitan, I don't know if you follow him, but he brought up that the stat he got from somewhere, I can't remember where he got it from, but it's how hitters in Japan do against 95 miles an hour or faster pitches.
Okay.
And Tsutsugo, who's recently failed in MLB, was really bad, struck out a lot against pitches that fast, but Murakami is one of the best.
Okay.
That stat could help explain why a lot of players have failed going over to Major League Baseball, hitters anyway, and why some have succeeded. Murakami, I think, is going to still be able to crush the ball against Major League pitchers.
That was actually the example I was going to use. Well, I was going to ask. I feel like contact hitters, for the most part, translate a little better from Japan than the power hitters do. Obviously, Matsui was a power hitter, and he was incredible. And then, like, Akiyama was a contact hitter, and he was bad for the Reds. But for the most part, I feel like the Ichiros, Nori Aokis, those kind of guys translate a lot better than the Sutsugos. But I think you just answered my question for me. Is it just velocity? I know there's also the style of pitching is a lot different. The pitches you see a lot more.
Well, yeah, there's more off-speed pitches here. There's some guys can throw up to 100 miles an hour, but more off-speed pitches. Also, there's a 6-man rotation. So when you get to the bottom of that rotation, it's getting pretty bad. I mean, those guys are not the best pitchers out there. So they need to also look at who they're getting their hits against. If a guy, is batting 320, maybe over 500 slugging, who's he doing that against? Is it equally against every pitcher, or is it just against the bottom of the rotation every time? That's something they need to look at.
Now,
that is interesting.
Does this kind of work for pitchers too? Like we talked about Yamamoto, Sasaki is obviously somebody who gets a lot of attention. Do the pitchers who throw 95 plus, do they tend to dominate way harder in NPB, or is there not really a pattern there?
Not really a pattern there.
Okay.
So, some of the best pitchers just don't throw very hard. One pitcher that's really missing is the Central League ERA leader from last year. Koyo Aoyagi. He's a great pitcher over here. Led all of Central League in ERA. He's a not underthrow, but a sidewinder pitcher. Sidewinder, sometimes submarine pitcher. Gets a lot of groundouts here.
Okay.
He pitched in the Olympics a couple years ago, once against Dominican Republic and once against USA, and did not do well either time. So they saw that as a red light flashing and just didn't invite him to the roster this time.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask why he's not on there, but I guess that's as good a reason as any.
Yeah.
So
that's why.
Okay. So anybody else you think people are sleeping on, or should we move on?
Well, hold on a second. We might move on, but let me think about the roster for a minute.
Okay. Yeah. I can read off some names if you want to have it pulled up.
Yeah, do that. Maybe it'll ring a bell.
Now, I apologize in advance. I don't speak Japanese, and I'm probably going to mispronounce a lot of these.
I'll be able to figure it out.
Sosuke Genda.
Sosuke Genda, okay.
Takuya Kai.
Takuya Kai, all right.
Kensuke Kondo,
Kensuke Kondo. All right.
Shugo Maki.
Shugo Maki. All right.
I like that name. It rolls off the tongue. There's
I like
Murakami.
watching you be corrected every time you say a name.
Dude, yeah, I mean, me versus Japanese is just a terrible matchup. Yuhei Nakamura,
Nakamura. All right.
Takumu Nakano.
Takuma Nakano. All right.
Oh man,
He said it way better than you.
yeah. There's Newt Bar. There's Otani. Kazuma Okamoto.
Okamoto. All right.
Okay, Takumi Oshiro.
Oshiro. All right.
Ukyo Shudo. I'm sorry.
That's pretty close. Ukyo Shuto. Yeah.
Oh wow, that was the one that I thought sounded the worst. I was like, I was ready to publish an apology. Sia Suzuki, Sia or Seiya?
Seiya.
Seiya, he's the guy in the
Tetsuko
Cubs.
Yamada,
Who's that? Oh, Tetsuto Yamada. Yeah.
Hotaka Yamakawa,
Kotaka Yamakawa. All right.
Masataka Yoshida.
Yes.
Okay. Then on the pitchers. Yeah, here we go. Ready? There's more. Oh wait, I recognize one of these names. I think Shota Imanaga,
Shota Imanaga. Yeah.
Yuki Matsui.
Yuki Matsui.
Yeah, I nailed that one. That was an easy one. That's like the John Smith of Japanese names. Hiroya Miyagi,
Hiroya Miyagi. Yeah.
Keiji Takahashi.
Perfect. Wow.
Look, I'm
Sound like a
getting
native
better.
on that one.
I'm
Are
getting
you proud
better.
of
I'm
yourself?
nailing it. Now this one's a little tough. You Darvish,
You nailed it.
Hiromi Ito.
Yes.
Oh man, I'm on a hot streak. I'm gonna screw this one up. Ryoji Kurabayashi.
Oh, Ryoji Kuribayashi.
Ryoji. So close.
That's a hard one.
Shohei Otani, a little bit of a nobody in baseball, but you know,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure he'll do good. I mean, he made the roster, so he's the kind of player who maybe will stand up on the world stage.
Maybe.
Taisei Oda.
Yeah.
There you go, nailed it. There's Sasaki, Hiroto Takahashi,
Okay.
Shosei Togo,
Yes.
Yuki Udagawa.
Udagawa. Yep.
We already talked about Yamamoto and Atsuki Yuasa.
Atsuki. What's that name again?
Yuasa.
Oh, Yuasa. That's
Okay.
it. Yeah.
Okay,
Atsuki
so
Yuasa.
any names that you go, oh, that guy, I want to talk about him.
Well, yeah, I would keep an eye on Shugo Maki, the one
Okay.
you said rolled off the tongue so well.
Yeah, that was a good name. I like that.
Yeah, he's
So,
a second.
Tell us a little bit about him.
Yeah, he's the reason I bring him up is because he's so young. He's only been in 2 or 3 years. Yeah, not too long. So
Okay.
he's just up and coming in his career. He could be ready to break out. He plays second. He could play first too. They could move him over there. So just one of those guys that might be something. The other guys are mostly more established, a little bit older. Like the other second baseman, Tetsuto Yamada, he was a 2015 MVP, but
Okay.
he's come down from that quite a bit. So
Yeah, I mean, it's been 8 years at this point. You know,
it's been a while.
Okay.
So-
All right. Well, you know.
So one thing
I
I
don't
want to ask you about is we got flooded with decommitments and teams blocking players because of injuries and stuff like that. And in the U.S., people are kind of going, "Oh, that sucks. I wanted to see Ronald Acuna play, whatever." But like, okay, I guess I get it because the team's playing. I get the feeling that that would never fly in Japan, but you tell me.
I don't know if it would never fly because I remember back in 2009, Hideki Matsui didn't play because he had been injured the year before. I think he was fine and healthy at the time of the tournament, but he was just coming off an injury. So that's the same problem a lot of major league players have right now. If they were injured for a significant part of the 2022 season, it's a tough decision to try and get in there and play, this spring.
Yeah, isn't that that's one of the few situations where the team can actually block it, as if they were injured for a certain amount of the season beforehand?
I think so, yeah.
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 So maybe that was
And,
what happened with Matsui.
Yeah. Well, I was also thinking about 2009 Koji Uehara, who went to the Red Sox later, and he was ALCS MVP.
Yeah, he was really good.
Yeah, he was just switching from NPB to MLB at the time. He'd signed with the Orioles. That's another thing. If a pitcher is signing with a new team, a pitcher or a catcher, it's a really tough call because you got to get, adjusted to working with, pitchers and catchers together. It's especially important
Yeah.
because you're going to be working together for the next 162 games. So that's another tough call. As far as players just saying, it's not for me, or I don't want to break up my spring routine, I don't think that would fly very well over here in Japan. I've never heard that from anybody. There's always been a semi-valid excuse as to why they shouldn't play.
Right. Yeah, I assume I don't feel like it would just not be accepted.
Right.
Well, you know what? I wish we had a little more of that over here.
Yeah.
I think we do now a little bit because now, I mean, pretty much the U.S. is sending almost all the best players they can, at least on the hitting side. But in years past, there was a lot of like, dude, we're putting Mark DeRosa out there. Like, there's like 10 better second basemen in the league than Mark DeRosa. Like, what are we doing?
Right. Well, I think each WBC has gotten more and more popular. The crowd size has gotten bigger. The viewers have gotten bigger. So they realize it's a big event. And at least for position players, it's been getting better every single time. With pitchers, my attitude has always been just take what you can get.
Yeah.
If you can get a halfway decent starter to sign up, I mean, good for him. It's great.
Okay. So, let's see. Just a refresher on the pool that Japan is in. They have Korea, they're a good team. I mean, they're not as good as Japan, but they're close. You have Australia, who is one of Ethan's favorite teams.
I'm not confident about Australia, though.
Yeah, it's not looking good for Australia. You have China, who I don't even know who's on their roster, but I don't imagine it's going to be like, oh, China coming up huge. And then you have the Czech Republic, who, fun story, but kind of doesn't belong on the same field as Japan. So
Yeah.
I guess, I mean, the big matchup there is Korea. And this is a little bit of an aside, but is there any kind of like rivalry between NPB and KBO, or are they mostly like separate?
Well, there's a rivalry between Japan and Korea.
Well, yeah.
Especially in baseball, but yeah, all sports together.
Okay.
Not so much between the two leagues, because we don't have players going back and forth much anymore nowadays. No, not too much. There are some Koreans who will get really offended if you try to say, NPB is so much better than KBO. But yeah, you'll have that.
Well, listen, they're passionate. That's what we want.
Right.
So, I mean, that's the matchup to look at in Pool B. Japan versus Korea is that's pretty much. I mean, they're the ones who are going to advance probably.
Yeah. But they are going to be the ones to advance. I have no doubt about that. Thing is, I think Korea's in a really good position because their first game is against Australia, and the coach has said he's going all in on Australia because really they just need to beat Australia and they're in.
Right.
It doesn't matter. They can lose to Japan. They're going to beat China and Czech Republic no matter what. I mean,
yeah, I don't see them losing to those teams.
Yeah,
I agree.
It's not going to happen. So they are taking the right approach to it. He said he filled up his pitching staff with guys that are good ground ball pitchers that he think will do good against Australian hitters. They're going to start Kwang Hyun Kim, probably. That's their best pitcher. And the good thing about that is they start him against Australia. That's the first game in Pool B. Then he will be ready for the second round after that, the quarterfinals. 5 days rest. Japan actually has a dilemma there because their first game is against China. You don't want to waste a good pitcher against China,
right?
But at the same time, you want to have that day one pitcher be ready for the quarterfinals. So they haven't really decided yet. So that's a tough call for them.
Well, now, does Japan have a clear number one? Like, is it Ohtani, or is it all four of them are roughly of the same caliber, so you could set it up whatever you want?
I guess Ohtani would be considered the ace right now, but it's really not clear on that. And it may not be a case of, just putting your best pitcher against your best opponent. It may be whatever works best into the schedule.
Right.
So they got a decision to make there. Australia, I think people counted out right from the beginning, but they're a better team than some people give them credit for. They got a pretty good winter league full of major league prospects. They've been playing, all winter. They're ready to go. They don't need to
Yeah.
shake off the cobwebs or anything. So,
Yeah.
but they've been hit with some bad news. The worst one was Liam Hendricks with cancer. So that's a big loss. Also, Curtis Mead. He's a Rays prospect, I think.
Yeah.
I think he was going to have a great tournament. Oh, Rays.
Yeah.
I know that.
I'll double Rays, but
And also, yeah, the losses plus the fact that Korea is just going all in against Australia, a Korean team that's absolutely focused on beating Australia. I think Australia has no chance.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. It's going to be tough. I think Australia is definitely the clear third. I think they're well ahead of China and they're well ahead of the Czech Republic. But yeah, I think it's sewn up. We know it's going to be Japan and Korea. I mean, I'm pulling for Australia. They're cool. I think they're really fun. But
but being the third best team in your pool is I mean, that doesn't really mean that much.
Yeah, it's not particularly helpful. Although I guess you won't have to re-qualify, which is nice. Although who knows, they might expand the tournament again, and then everybody, who knows? But
this guy Ray Chang is evidently a player manager for Team China, so he's
an American guy.
That should be interesting.
Who's Yusuke Masago? Is that an NPB guy?
Masago, that's a NPB guy. Hold on a second. I lost your screen here. I can't see you.
Oh no. I mean, you're not.
I don't know what I did.
You're not missing much, but
Yeah, that's a good point. You're not looking at anything good.
Well, I can't see your faces. I got some. There's Ray Chang. That's what I see.
That's you know what? That's fine.
I'm sure he's a handsome fella.
Okay, let me see. Ray Chang is the highlighted guy. I don't know why. Yusuke Masago. I think that's the SoftBank Hawks hitter.
Okay.
He's been bouncing back and forth between the top league and minor leagues. Not so good at the top league though, so he's more of a prospect.
Poor China.
Okay.
China.
Well, they're growing. They're growing.
They're working on it. They're working on them right now.
Do you know anything about baseball in China? Because I feel like information is just impossible to come by.
Okay, well, I know that they had a league before, like from 2007 to 2013, I want to say. It shut down, and then they started it up again in 20. And supposedly they've been playing every year, but I can get no information on it, no matter where I search. So that's all I know.
It seems like, with China being what it is on the information front, it seems like, it would be a little bit difficult to get specifics out of things there. Even though you'd think a baseball league, there wouldn't be any reason to keep that under wraps, but who knows? I don't know. I don't run the government. Maybe I should, but I don't. Right?
You should run the Chinese government.
No, I should run the government, like the world government.
I'm here for it. So do you think there's any chance that baseball catches on in China at all?
I don't think so. They've tried everything they can, everything they possibly can. I guess if there was just one player that was like a Yao Ming type that just goes to Major League Baseball and dominates, it might attract some attention.
Mm-hmm.
But they've really, really tried and just have not succeeded. So I don't know. If it were up to me, I'd probably just give up because it's not really worth putting the resources into. I could be wrong on that. I don't know, but
I mean, it's going to be the sort of thing where they could put as many resources into it as they want, but unless there's actual passion for it, then they're kind of just throwing good money after bad. Maybe.
Maybe.
So let me ask you about that. Obviously, Japan, huge baseball nation. Korea, not too far behind, and Taiwan has the CPBL, which is growing and growing. Are there any other Asian countries that are big on baseball that people in the U.S. just don't really know about, or is it just those three really?
Actually, not really. After Taiwan, you have a big drop off in just any kind of enthusiasm for baseball. Philippines, I guess, would be the next one in East Asia, because they used to be a baseball country if you go back like a century, but basketball's really taken over there, and they have a hard time getting anything going. Really interested to see where Pakistan goes from here. That's on the other side of Asia, but of course they are way behind right now.
Right.
So,
Well, but they're the
uh,
only relevant country in that region, right?
yeah, yeah, um, yeah. Just last week, actually, there was the West Asia Baseball Cup that was won by Pakistan. They won pretty
Hmm.
easily. So yeah, they don't have a lot of competition over there, and they're not really good enough to compete with the East Asian countries. So they're kind of stuck right now.
It is kind
Yeah,
of funny to think of like you think like the what is it is it like is it called West Asia, that region, like the West Asian
yeah.
tournament?
Usually South Asian region,
South Asia,
Pakistan,
okay.
India. But for this event, yeah, it's West Asia.
But you think about like
Yeah.
the concept of a baseball tournament where Pakistan is an absolute juggernaut. It sounds funny, but over there in
Oh,
that region,
that's a
yup.
thing. Like the whatever, like the WBSC, like Oceania ones are like Australia runs the tables, and then New
Hmm.
Zealand is the second best, and then everybody else. It's
Yeah,
hilarious.
there's nothing after that.
Yeah.
So all right, so let me ask you this because you're obviously well versed in leagues all over the world. We're very good on MLB, and I don't know very much. I pay a lot of attention to the ABL, but I don't know a lot about anything else. What are some things that you think baseball countries do really well to grow, and what are some things that you think other countries need to work on? So, for instance, Japan, Korea, a lot of the South American and Central American countries. Like, what do you think they do well to grow the game of baseball, and then what do you think China and things like that would need to work on?
Hmm. Well, baseball's kind of a hard sell in a lot of countries, especially if they have sports they already enjoy playing. It's good to find a country where they have a good culture of going out to the ball field, because one of the things that really killed baseball around the 50s, 60s, 70s was when TVs became common in everybody's home. Prior to that, baseball had been building up a good audience in Europe because people wanted to watch sports. They just went out and watched, they went out to the park, went out to the ball field and watched it. As soon as TV came out and soccer was on TV all the time, they stopped watching it. They stopped watching baseball. In America, football took over because it's more TV friendly. You can see all
Right.
the players on the field. Uh, Whereas baseball, you just see three guys. It's
Right.
not the same as seeing it in person. So you look at a country like Australia, they're doing well at baseball now, even though cricket, rugby, Aussie rules football are the big sports there. And that's because people there really like to get out and go to the ball field. Uh, Even if it's a sport they're not familiar with, they'll get familiar with it. Of course, they have year-round pretty good weather, so that helps too.
Right.
Um, so yeah, I think it's best to try to bring baseball to countries that don't already have really established sports. So, like when I look at Africa, I think of South Africa. That's the only country that's decent at baseball right now. But they're number one in the world in rugby. They also, well, soccer is their most popular sport. They got other sports too.
Hmm.
Um, but a place like Uganda, I think, is going to be huge in the future in baseball because they don't really have a sport right now where they can say they're the best in the world or one of the best. Um, and the Dodgers have an academy there. And just recently, there was a player that signed with the Pirates and another player that signed to play in college. Can't remember what college it was. I think it's in Texas somewhere. Then last year, of course, there were two players that signed with the Dodgers from Uganda, and another one that went to college, that same college. So they are really up and coming, and the reason is just get out there and introduce the game to them. They're not trying to
Hmm.
show it on TV or anything. They're actually putting the bats in kids' hands and finding the best athletes to get out there and prove themselves.
Hmm. We talked to are you familiar with Titus Mutwiri?
What's that name again?
Titus Mutwiri. He's the
Titus
president.
Mutwiri.
Yeah, he's the president of the Kenya Baseball Federation.
Okay, no, I didn't know that. I haven't done a
So
Kenya baseball video yet, so
yeah, we had him on the podcast. I mean, it was months ago at this point, but I mean, he did mention that Uganda's kind of like the powerhouse in that region. He's
oh yeah.
kind of trying to do like a do-it-yourself baseball academy there, and from what he tells it, I mean, it sounds like it's going pretty good. I mean, it seems like Uganda and Kenya are kind of like the only countries that or even really having an effort made towards baseball. But I mean, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say Uganda, Kenya, and Tanzania in that region.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, it would be cool to have baseball take off there. I mean, it sounds like you are of the opinion, which I never thought of this, but you're of the opinion that the in-person element of, taking in a game is important. And, I would agree with that. I love going to baseball games. I like it more than watching them on TV, although, I'm still going to watch them on TV, but, but going to the ballpark's like a special thing. And, yeah, I mean, it does seem like you might be right that it's kind of like right around when TV came out was when other sports started to take over. So, I mean, maybe over there, just because, they're going out to do stuff, they're out on the field. Maybe it will take hold over there. That would be cool. I would love it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's the first step, is to get people out there playing it, and later they might watch it. So sometimes I try to do that in reverse order. It never works out very well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the things that I like about your channels. I know you did a sort of a longer video about how baseball could grow in the world, and then you'd also do videos about baseball in the Philippines, baseball in Pakistan, whatever, and take a deeper look into these countries. And a lot of times you'd say, I remember you saying, and if they want to grow it, they can do this, this, and this, which I think is really good, instead of just being like, oh, the Philippines had Bobby Chenard and that's it, and Tim Tebow. You know what I mean? And just like moving on. I thought you did a good job of being like, and here's how they could keep growing, and here's how they can grow the sport of baseball by doing this. So I guess what I wanted to, this is why I brought it up. Sorry. One of the things that I remember you mentioned was you did a video on India and how baseball could grow in India. And you said that one of the things they can do, and I haven't heard a lot of other people say this, is take like sort of the cricket cast-offs and say, look, it's pretty similar. Maybe you're more suited to throwing overhand than to, I don't know if they throw underhand or no, they do like the straight arm thing. I don't know. I don't watch cricket.
They
but
bowl.
They bowl. Yeah, they bowl. Yeah.
Bowling.
But I thought that was really interesting. Is that a thing that you think is being explored at all, or are you ahead of the curve?
Yeah, actually, they've. I read that in an article. They're taking, kids who play cricket and introducing them to baseball in the off season, or just doing both sports at the same time. And yeah, they can decide later if baseball is more suited to their skills or not. I think the same thing's been done in Australia, where it's mostly a cricket country.
Right.
But yeah, that's the right approach. And Pakistan is doing the same thing now. All the other countries too. Pakistan has just done a better job of building up a national team and everything else. So.
Now, something that I thought of, and I don't know if there's actually anything to this, but something that I thought of like historically is a lot of these countries where baseball seems to have taken hold early. It seems like, I don't think this is the case with Japan, but I think it probably is with Korea and probably Australia also. It seems like these countries had a lot, like, honestly, a U.S. military presence there, and they brought the game with them. And I'm pretty sure that Japan's baseball, surge predates any sort of American military involvement there. Do you know if that's true for Korea and Australia? Like, is there anything to this?
As far as Japan goes, it was introduced in the 1800s, and by the 1920s, it was already the biggest sport out here. It may have been like one of the biggest in the 1920s. Then when Babe Ruth and the other Major League All-Stars came out, that was 1930, early 30s sometime. I think that's what really made it the number one sport out here. And so that has nothing to do with American troops being stationed here.
Right, yeah.
As far as Australia, the story I heard, it was when there was a gold rush out there. They found gold in Australia.
Okay.
And American prospectors came out and introduced the game, played it in their free time, and that's how it was introduced there. Korea, baseball was introduced in Korea just after it was introduced to Japan. So maybe by the Japanese or by America. I'm not sure how it goes, how the story goes there. Taiwan, it was introduced by Japan when Japan was occupying Taiwan.
Okay, so it actually kind of sounds like Japan is responsible for pretty much all of the East Asian interest in baseball. It's a bat. I didn't know that.
Yeah, and then also when you look at Europe, Germany and Italy have been playing baseball for a long time, especially Italy. That was right after World War II.
Right.
That's directly because of the American military being stationed there.
Okay.
Netherlands predates that. They've been playing baseball for a long time and get
Right.
a lot
Good
of
old
players
honk
from
ball.
Caribbean
Yeah.
islands. Czech Republic is the really weird one because, yeah, they've never had any military bases there, as far as I know.
Yeah, I don't think so.
There's not much immigration between Czech Republic and the United States. It's smaller than the other countries, and during the Cold War, it was communist and baseball wasn't allowed.
Right.
So I don't know how or why they suddenly got good at baseball and got a lot of kids to play it there, but it's working out well for them.
They're a really interesting one too, because it's not like there's a bunch of American expats or something that like grew the gamers. It's like their national team, for the exception of Eric Sogard, is just a bunch of like firemen and doctors and stuff who just love baseball. Like it's really interesting to see how like the grassroots growth that it had there.
Yeah, I love that story with Czech Republic. Have you seen the documentary that came out just last week?
No, I haven't seen. We were just talking today about how we should watch it and like live stream it or something.
Yeah, we wanted to do like live reaction. I don't know if that would run afoul of any sort of like copyright or anything, but you know,
we'll figure something out. We'll figure something out.
If one of our 8 viewers that we would have for that is like the head of YouTube, then you know what? I'll take the hit on that. That'd be fine with me.
Yeah. Well, the cool thing about that video though is definitely watch it when you get the chance. But that crowd they played in front of at Regensburg, Germany for the WBC qualifiers was so small. I think they had like 1,000 fans there. You can hear like individual claps and stuff like that. I really wish they would have waited until after the actual WBC to make the documentary so they could contrast that with what their next game is going to be like.
Right.
Next they're going to be in Tokyo Dome in front of 45,000 people.
Yeah, it's going to be wild.
It's going to be against Japan. That fireman might be out there pitching to Shohei Ohtani.
That game was crazy. Remarkable to watch. I don't know if you watched the qualifiers, but that was unbelievable to watch this dude who's not a baseball player just lull everybody to sleep with like 75-mile-per-hour heat. It was incredible. It was unbelievable. It was such like an underdog story. It was so cool.
Yeah, dude, you're throwing against ex-major league hitters too from Spain.
Right. Yeah. Right. Exactly. So
you're not used to watching major league hitters face on camera fastballs that you can watch them drop before they get to the plate. And this dude was just flummoxing these dudes. Like all these guys with major league experience are just rolling over on 72-mile-an-hour fastballs. It was incredible.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. So obviously you're baseball international, and the whole point of it is countries around the world are playing baseball. What are some up and coming baseball countries that people should keep an eye on that aren't obvious to the average viewer?
Okay, well, we've already talked about Czech Republic and Uganda. Czech Republic's already made it, and Uganda I've already talked about. That's one you really need to look out for. Uganda maybe in, I'd say not the next WBC, but the one after that, they may replace Africa. South Africa as the top African country.
Wow. Bold prediction.
Yeah. I won't say for sure, but the thing is, like I said, starting last year, they've been sending someone to play in the minor leagues. Last year it was Dodgers, this year Pirates, and one to play in college, one each year. They're going to keep doing that every single year. And these guys are 16 to 18 years old. So after 10 years of doing that, what do you got? You got 10 guys with college baseball experience in the U.S. and 10 guys with minor league baseball experience. Put that together, it starts to look like the South African team. The only difference is the Ugandan guys are all under 30. So they could definitely compete with South Africa, at least in 10 years, So by the next WBC, that's stretching it a little bit. I don't think that'll happen, but.
Well, I mean, listen, it
would be cool.
You got to trust the process, In the words of the great 50 Cent, whoever said progress was a slow process wasn't talking about me.
Oh,
there's your 50 Cent quote for the day.
Yeah, there you go.
So anyway, what are some other countries you think might be bursting onto the scene?
Just name a South American country, and they could be really good at baseball. So for a long time, there's been like this, wall between the baseball world and the soccer world. That the baseball popularity ends at coastal Colombia, which is a part of Colombia that like sticks out into the ocean. If you look at it on a map, it looks like it's breaking off from Colombia. And then northern Venezuela, that's where everybody lives. Southern Venezuela is all jungle, and that separates the baseball world from the soccer world there. It's starting to change now because since 2015, over 3 million people have left Venezuela. Most of them have gone to other places in South America, and they brought baseball with them. So you can see baseball being played in Peru, in Chile. Argentina's developed independently on their own. And of course, Brazil, they've produced 3 Major League Baseball players in the last 12 years. Before they didn't have any. Theirs is more of independently doing it. And of course, Colombia, they're going from, one of the more minor baseball countries to the powerhouse, right?
Right. Yeah. To relevant.
Yeah. And like I said, it's just coastal Colombia. It's the northern part that just sticks out into the ocean. It's a really small part of Colombia. Most of the population lives in the rest of the country. So I'm waiting for baseball to become more of a national sport in Colombia, not just specific to one region. And I think that's going to happen soon.
It does kind of sound to me like we talked about how Japan, it evidently spread baseball to Korea and Taiwan. And you just mentioned that Venezuelans are in large part responsible for the spread of baseball in South America. It kind of sounds like what you kind of have to do is get a foot in the door just in one country. And then there's a chance that maybe they would take it from there. And they're going to be, they're not going to be completely culturally similar, but they're going to be more culturally similar. And East Asian baseball, has a different character than American baseball for sure, which I'm sure is probably because the Japanese spread their version of the game. So, is that something that you think could happen in Africa as well? Like Uganda becomes like the driving force over there?
The way I picture the future, just that Uganda would be like the hub for baseball in Africa. I think Africa is a huge continent, mostly poor, not poor everywhere, but they're doing a good job now of introducing baseball in every single African country. A lot of that's coming from Japan, once again, like Japanese embassy workers, Japanese volunteers, getting the equipment out there, getting them to play. So I imagine a future where, some kid in Nigeria is just really good at baseball and he dreams about going to Uganda to make a name for himself, For them, America is so far away and so different and can really seem out of their league, So Uganda would be that great stepping stone, that one place where they could go. Just build a baseball career from there.
All right. I like it.
Yeah, I do like what you're saying of sort of these baseball outposts all over the world of like Australia is the little hub for anybody who's good from New Zealand or Fiji or whatever. And then Japan, obviously. And then, stuff like that. I wonder if that's like an initiative that MLB and KBO and NPB and stuff try to do, or if it just kind of happens,
Yeah, I don't know what their motive is there, if that's what they're thinking, what I just said, or if it just kind of happens that way. But it's going the right direction now. They've pretty much ignored Africa forever, but now they're starting to pay attention to it. Like I said, Dodgers have an academy there. They're training players, so it's going in the right direction, and not just in Africa, but other parts of the world too.
Yeah. Well, one thing that I've noticed, I don't know if you're a basketball fan at all, but I've noticed that MLB is just 10 years behind the NBA. So like whatever the NBA is doing that's successful, MLB a few years later goes, let's give that a shot. And so you can tell they're doing that with China, and they're throwing everything they can at China because that's the NBA's moneymaker, and it's just not working. But like the NBA put a ton of effort into Africa, and they got guys like Joel Embiid and Pascal Siakam and stuff out of there. And now it looks like MLB is starting to do that a little bit. Like, do you think, I don't really know what I'm asking here, but do you think that sort of globalization is working, or it's more difficult than that?
Well, yeah, I'm not a basketball fan, but I do notice that NBA is a lot smarter about spreading their game around the world. But of course, basketball has a following, at least some kind of following in every part of the world already anyway. So people know basketball, they know the rules. Even if they don't know the rules, they know the simplest part of it. Right. Baseball's a little harder to understand. And like I said, it's not TV friendly. So you can't just watch it on TV and figure it out. Like, especially when you're fielding the ball, where you're supposed to be on the field, because all you see is the batter and pitcher.
Right.
So it's baseball is a harder sell than basketball. Um, and as far as a country like China, that works for basketball because basketball was even before Yao Ming went to the NBA. So baseball doesn't have that advantage, and they may be just wasting their time over there.
Right.
Yeah,
Now,
that is a good point.
Do you
I know-
think that do you think part of the reason basketball gets bigger in these areas first is especially a place like Africa or large parts of China still are still pretty poor? Basketball is probably a little bit cheaper to start playing than baseball. I mean, you don't really I mean, you need like baskets, you need a ball, but you don't need like as much of a specialized field as you do for baseball. You know, baseball bats break. You need a lot of baseballs. Everybody needs a glove, all that type of stuff. So do you
Catcher's
think,
gear.
yeah, do you think that the cost barrier is part of the reason why maybe basketball catches on in these areas first?
Well, I don't think so because I think you were just comparing playing baseball formally to playing basketball informally.
Yeah,
Because if you play
maybe. Yeah,
basketball the right way, you got to have a gym, you got to have the floor and
true.
the raised baskets and everything. It can actually be really expensive.
Yeah,
Baseball can be expensive too, but if you play it with just a branch that you pulled off of a tree and a rock, that you found on the ground, then it
yeah,
doesn't cost anything. So
yeah. You may be right about that. Maybe it's because to me, I'm like, okay, well, I've played baseball and this is what it was like, but I never played baseball with literally just making it up on the fly.
Yeah, that's a
And,
good point.
But like, I mean, I have also you watch like have you ever seen that clip of Mariano Rivera talking about his first baseball glove? And it was like cardboard that he folded over like twice. And he was like, yeah, listen, if you fold it right, you can actually take a pretty good line drive with it and it'll cushion it. And he does it in front of the guy interviewing him. And they're like, you played with this? And he's like, this is all we had. So yeah, maybe you're right.
yeah, yeah. Some of the most successful countries in baseball are actually pretty poor. So
Yeah.
um, yeah, but they all, of course, have the equipment. You think of like countries like Nicaragua or something. They do have the proper equipment to play.
Right.
I don't know what the average kid does there to play because I'm sure the average, like the poorest kid in Nicaragua, doesn't go to the store and buy a baseball bat. So
Right.
I don't know how that works, but
Right. Well, another country I wanted to ask you about is Brazil, and I don't know how much you know about Brazil, but like you said, Venezuela is putting its tentacles into all these different countries, but Brazil seems to have its own kind of baseball scene, and I think it's mostly due to the Japanese Brazilian population. But one of the things, because we had Sean on the show and he was talking about this, and he said he's been there before and his wife's Brazilian. And he was like, we look at Brazil and we go, oh, they're making strides. They had like 5 players in MLB. They have Thiago Vieira and stuff, went over and was really good in NPB. And they're in the qualifiers and they had a lot of MLB guys and stuff. But he was like, if you go to Brazil, nobody cares. Like, nobody knows what baseball is.
Right.
Like, and I don't know anything about it. Like, what do you think of the Brazilian baseball scene?
Well, I know that all baseball activity there is happening in Sao Paulo. That's where
Okay.
the Japanese population mostly lives, the Japanese Brazilian population.
Makes a
And
lot of
that's
sense.
where almost all of the major league players or prospects have come from. If you look at their hometown is Sao Paulo or somewhere near there. So, yeah, the next great step would be to, get baseball played in Brasilia or Rio and just get it all around the country. I think MLB's goal in Brazil, though, is just to produce players for the major league system. They don't really seem interested in spreading it out, building a professional league someday. That doesn't seem to be their aim.
Right.
That's the problem. That's why it's been stuck in Sao Paulo the whole time.
Is this a Brazil specific problem, or do they do this everywhere where they take a short-sighted approach?
Well, yeah, they always start somewhere. I was thinking, like India, they just started in Mumbai, I think. I might be wrong on it, but and yeah, ignored the other cities because you got one place. You can't start everywhere all at once. But right now, they've been having success getting prospects out of Brazil, and they don't. The way they see it, if it ain't broken, don't fix it, I guess.
Man, that's so frustrating. Like I was talking to Tom about this one day, that I'm a big ABL guy. I really like the Australian Baseball League, and one of the things that bothers me is obviously Australia is not a baseball powerhouse, but they've got like a good scene. They've produced like almost 40 big leaguers. Like they're doing fine. And one of the things that bothered me is the ABL was huge in the 90s, and they had a lot of MLB guys come over, or MLB prospects come over and play. And then I don't know why it folded. It was before my time. And in 2010, they started back up again, and MLB funded like 75% of the league, I think. And it started, they were growing and whatever. And then all of a sudden, they just pulled the plug, and they're like, figure it out. And I think it actually worked. And now it's private ownership, and the league's doing well. But I don't understand like why MLB does that. Like you have the infrastructure there. You already have a baseball community that people like it. Like what's $10 million to MLB? You know what I mean? Just throw it at Australia and see if you can get it to work.
Right. Well, I don't know. I don't know why they pulled their money out of there. I think maybe they thought it was just fine on its own. It's still going today, and they can still get crowds of over 1,000, sometimes over 3,000, like for the championship last week.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Australian Baseball League is going to be all right. I don't think they need to, support it, and they don't need to hold it like a baby, But they should definitely keep an eye on it, make sure it's still going, and if they need to build it up anymore, then yeah, they definitely should. Yeah, Australia's only got 25 million people, I think, and it's a pretty crowded sports market. So I don't know how big baseball can get over there. There's got to be some kind of ceiling for it, I think.
Right. And do you think
I think it could kind of settle into the popular niche sport role. Like if you look at basketball in Australia, basketball like took off in the last like 20 years, and then they won a bronze medal at the Olympics, and now they have like Ben Simmons and stuff coming out and playing, and it's like basketball is like solidly behind Australian rules football and stuff like that, but like it's big, people like it. I feel like baseball, if everything goes right, they could get it to that level if everything goes right, but we're talking about MLB here, so what are the odds things are going to go right?
Right.
Yeah. Well, like you said, MLB is behind the NBA and that sort of thinking. Also, a big thing you said in the last 20 years, I think that goes back to the 2000 Olympics in Sydney, having USA's dream team out there playing in Australia.
Mm-hmm.
Really sparked a lot of interest. I don't think you're ever going to have a situation where the best baseball players in the world go to Sydney for a few weeks and play. So
right.
That's a good point, actually. That's a very good point.
Yeah, I was going to mention that. I mean, they do that. They have done that historically with Japan, but I mean, Japan was already a massive baseball country at the time. Like MLB players going to play against ABL players, it's like, yeah, they're kind of wasting their time going over there. Like they're just going to destroy them.
Yeah, that's not really fair.
Actually, I would like to see more MLB tours like they used to do like 100 years ago.
Yeah.
The Rawlings tour, that's the famous one. They went to England. I think they went to Ireland too, France, and built up the game there. Like I said before TV came out, baseball had some kind of following in Europe. Also in the 30s, when they went to Japan, they also went to the Philippines. I can't remember if it was before or after, but it was the same tour. And at that time, baseball was the biggest sport in the Philippines. And they've really ignored the Philippines since then, and basketball has become their biggest sport. Baseball's maybe not even in the top 5 there.
Wow. Do you think there would be any hope? I don't know if this is a stupid idea or not, but it just popped into my head. Maybe sending the best players to these countries to do a tour wouldn't be like a great idea, because you send like the U.S. World Baseball Classic team to the Czech Republic. Again, they're wasting their time. If you sent like a tour of like prospects or something over there, you're not going to get the big American audience, but it's going to be players that are their top tier players on the world stage. Is there any potential in anything like that, or do you think that's kind of silliness? What do you think?
Well, if it's a country like the Czech Republic where there already is some interest in baseball, they would probably love to have a team of MLB prospects out there to play against, and just to see how they do, and they get more people than usual to show up. I think that'd be great. Yeah, the talent level of the team they send out has to be relevant to the interest in baseball there.
Right.
One thing MLB tried to do last fall after the season was send out an all-star team to Korea.
Right.
And the team was full of not stars.
Right.
And Korea is a big baseball country. They expect stars. And not only that, the prices were just ridiculous, and most people didn't want to buy tickets. Ticket sales weren't going well, and they pulled the plug on the event altogether. So major failure.
Well, you
Right.
know, I gotta say, I'm shocked to hear that MLB tried to put something together and they didn't market it properly. I mean, frankly, this is the first I'm hearing of anything
That
like
is
that.
that is beyond the pale. No, I do like your idea though of matching up the talent. Like I remember right before the pandemic, the Doosan Bears went out to Australia and played against the Australian national team, and I thought that was perfect because the Korean national team is going to beat down the Australian national team, and I think the Bears handily won. But that's
Mhm.
a better way to do it. You know what I mean? Of saying, okay, we'll take one team of good guys against your best instead of our best against your best. I do like that.
Yeah.
So we got like 3 minutes, as it says. Is there anything we didn't touch on or anything that you wanted to talk about?
Uh, Not pretty much. That's it. I wanted to talk more about the rosters, but yeah, we're running out of time, and I got other things to do here. So,
Right.
uh,
Well, we'll have you on
Uh,
again and talk about them.
Yeah.
yeah,
All right. Well, cool, man. This has been a lot of fun. Thanks for coming
Yeah.
on. Where can people find you? Obviously, Baseball International on YouTube.
yeah, and forgot what's my Twitter handle. Baseball at baseball intern one.
Yeah, that
I
sounds
think
right.
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just those two places. That's it.
All right.
Okay, great. Well, this has been a lot of fun, man. You were super knowledgeable. Thanks for going over all this and for putting up with us, really.
Yeah, dude. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me on. I'd be glad to come on again anytime.
All right.
Yeah. Next
All right,
time we'll
deal.
talk rosters.
Yeah.
All
All
right.
right. Well, yeah. Well, enjoy the WBC if we don't see you before then, and enjoy the rest of your day since it's your morning.
Hey,
All right. Take it
See
easy,
ya.
man. Thanks.
All right, dude. See you.
So, Eric, thanks for coming on the show. That was a lot of fun. And Tom, I learned a lot. I mean, I fancy myself a baseball expert, but definitely not. I don't know as much about the overseas aspect as he does.
Yeah, I feel like when I talk to him, I feel like when I talk to somebody who doesn't know anything about baseball, they're looking at me and they're like, "This guy knows everything."
Yeah.
It's like that in reverse when we were talking to him. Like I'm like, this
Yeah.
guy literally he knows the history of baseball in like Uganda.
Dude, he knew about Tanzania.
Yeah, yeah.
I
Like,
didn't know about that.
like dude, it literally like I could just sit at his feet and just be like, just teach me, you know,
Yeah.
teach me your wisdom. And there is one way. There is one way that you could do that. And honestly, you don't even have to sit at his feet. You can do it on your own time.
By
If
watching his YouTube channel.
Yeah, or if you're not into watching his YouTube channel, you could listen to his YouTube channel.
And he's right. And
Don't-
he's right.
don't
Or
you
follow
love-
him on Twitter.
Don't you love how flexible his medium is? It's
He's
like
a
he
wonderful
knows
man.
he knows how to reach the maximum audience, which is something that we cannot relate to in
Yep.
any way.
Yep. No, he's
Yeah.
a super knowledgeable guy. Go ahead and
Yes.
follow him at Baseball Intern 1 on Twitter and go follow his YouTube channel, Baseball International, for all of your Baseball International needs. And he was a super nice guy and super receptive. So if you have any questions or anything, tweet at him. I'm sure he'll answer.
Oh, yeah.
I'm writing checks for him. I hope he can cash them. But yeah, he was great. He was super, super nice. So Eric, thanks for coming on. We'll definitely have you on again. We could talk WBC rosters or, how the tournament played out, that kind of thing. But that was really cool to get an insight into the Asian aspect of the game, but also the global aspect that I didn't know as much about.
Yeah, I like that he was able to pull out like some. I mean, there was me versus trying to pronounce Japanese names, one of the worst matchups of all time. But in the middle of that, there was that goodness that is. He knows all these NPB players that like you and I are like, oh, I don't know who that guy is. That these are names that could very easily be pulled out of like the credits on like Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Oh, I don't know
Right.
who that guy is. I don't even know that he plays baseball. And then he brings up like that guy Yamamoto. Oh, he's actually a stud and he's like 23. And he's like probably one of the best pitchers in the world. So, the fact that he was able to say that, and give us like a little bit of, I don't know if the inside scoop is the right term.
I know
But,
what
like,
you mean, though.
Yeah, like the scouting report on these guys that otherwise we would just be like, oh, well, there's, that guy plays baseball.
Right.
So
Right.
that's my favorite part. That now I have a little bit more respect for the Japanese team for specific reasons instead of just that I know that they're good.
Yeah, that's exactly how I feel. I always just knew they were good. I know they're a powerhouse, but like I don't know
Right.
anything about them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you know
no,
all
that
the
was
guys who
cool.
were in MLB. You're like, oh, Shohei Ohtani. Wow.
Yeah,
Heard
Yu
of him.
Darvish.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that was really cool. That was awesome. So, Eric, thanks again for coming on. As for what's coming up, we'll be in a couple of days. We'll be interviewing Matt Tollarini, he heads up the World Baseball Network, which is a really cool website. where they sort of just do a little bit of everything. Like they've interviewed Mike Piazza and Mariano Rivera and stuff. But then he also like they have articles up that are like the 10 best players in Australian history and stuff like that. So he's just a good dude. It was really cool, and he has a podcast. I'm blanking on the name, but we'll obviously talk about it when he's there.
Right.
But it was,
wait.
It was Baseball Without Borders or Baseball Beyond Borders, one of those
There
two.
you go.
But yeah,
we will drop the link in the description anyway.
Yeah, but Matt's a cool guy, and he's super knowledgeable. I know on the Caribbean series because I listened to that on his podcast, but I think he knows a lot just about baseball around the world. So that'll be cool. It'll be like back-to-back episodes of just learning about the global game. So I'm looking forward to that. So
now, before we go, okay, listen, I'm reluctant to leave our fans. Obviously you have to leave them wanting more. But there is one thing where we do not have to leave them wanting more, and that is our socials. So can you take our fans by the hand and walk them to where they can find us on the internet, on the World Wide Web?
Let me see what I can do. All right.
Hey, stretch.
So if you would like to follow us on Twitter, you can find us at the Baseball Pod 2.
Right, not the Baseball Pod 1.
That was taken.
That is our forefather.
Yeah, that was taken. We're at the Baseball Pod number 2. And if you want to email us, you can email us at thebaseballpod@gmail.com. You know why? Because the Baseball Podcast was taken. So at thebaseballpod@gmail.com. So if you guys have anything to say, any criticisms, we're obviously willing to listen.
Yeah.
Any comments? If you want to just come on the show and play a game like Melvin Mora or Elmer Descends, we'd be more than happy to have you on. And feel free to reach out. Our DMs are open on Twitter, I think. And
if not, they will be.
Yeah, if not, they will be. And obviously, our Gmail account is open. So feel free to reach out and obviously like and subscribe on YouTube at the Baseball Podcast. So anyway, this has been a lot of fun. Eric, one more time, thank you for coming on the show. Everybody look forward to Matt Tollerini, and I'm sure we'll have Sean on at some point again. And this was a lot of fun. So thanks for everybody for listening to the Baseball Podcast.
Until next time, everybody.